Imagine a day without food, a week without clean water. Can you? For millions in Africa, this is not imagination, but a harsh reality. Picture this for a moment. The sun rises, but there's no breakfast to break your fast, no lunch to look forward to, and dinner is just a distant dream. Now imagine a week where the only water available is murky, contaminated, and a potential death sentence. It's hard to visualize, isn't it? Yet this is the everyday life for millions across Africa, a life many of us can't even begin to comprehend. Africa, a continent blessed with unparalleled natural beauty and rich cultural heritage, is also home to some of the world's most dire humanitarian crises. The specter of food and water scarcity looms large over numerous African nations. From the arid plains of the Sahel region to the bustling urban slums, the lack of these basic necessities is a grim reality. In the 21st century, it's shocking to think that nearly 1 in 4 people in sub-Saharan Africa face chronic food deprivation. That's over 230 million people who go to bed hungry every night. And the situation with water isn't any brighter. Approximately 345 million people, almost a third of Africa's population, lack access to clean water. But why, you may ask? In an era of technological advancements and global connectivity, are we still grappling with these age-old problems? The reasons are manifold and complex, ranging from climate change and environmental degradation to conflict, poverty and poor governance. In these 2 short minutes, we've barely scratched the surface of this stark reality, but it's crucial to understand the gravity of the situation, to realize that this isn't some far-off problem, but a pressing issue that affects millions of lives every day. In a world of abundance, how can we sit idle while our fellow humans starve and thirst? The food and water crisis in Africa is not a natural disaster, but a man-made catastrophe. This statement may be hard to digest, but the facts speak for themselves. To start with, let's consider climate change, an issue that's been largely driven by human activities. Africa, home to 17% of the world's population, is responsible for only 4% of global carbon emissions. Yet it's this continent that's bearing the brunt of climate change, with severe droughts becoming more frequent and intense. Then there's the issue of conflict. In many parts of Africa, armed conflicts and political instability not only disrupt farming activities, but also make it difficult for aid to reach those who need it most. It's a vicious cycle. Conflict leads to hunger, and hunger, in turn, perpetuates conflict. Economic inequality plays a significant role too. While some African countries have seen impressive economic growth in recent years, the benefits haven't been evenly distributed. Millions of people are still trapped in poverty, unable to afford even the most basic necessities, including food and clean water. Lastly, poor infrastructure exacerbates the situation. In many rural areas, people live miles away from the nearest water source. And even in urban areas, clean water can be hard to come by due to inadequate sanitation and water supply systems. Each of these factors, climate change, conflict, economic inequality, and poor infrastructure, is a piece of a larger puzzle. Together they paint a picture of a crisis that's complex, deep-rooted, and ultimately man-made. But remember, these numbers are not just statistics. Behind each figure is a person, a mother struggling to feed her children, a farmer watching his crops wither, a child walking miles for a sip of water. These are the stories of human suffering that make up the food and water crisis in Africa. These numbers are not just statistics, they are stories of human suffering. Behind these staggering figures are real people, children, mothers, fathers, all struggling to survive. Picture this: a young boy named Kofi. Barely 10 years old, he walks miles every day under the relentless African sun just to fetch water for his family. His small shoulders bear the weight of not just the water jugs, but also the hopes of his family. His daily journey is not a choice, but a necessity. Then there's Amina, a mother of 3. She cradles her youngest, a baby girl, as she rations out the last of their food. Her eyes are filled with worry, but also a fierce determination. She's seen droughts before, she's seen hardship, but she's never seen a crisis like this. And we can't forget about the elderly like Baba. A once robust farmer, Baba's hands are now too weak to till the soil. His land, once lush and green, is now parched and barren. His heart aches as he watches his grandchildren grow thinner with each passing day. These are the faces of the crisis, the real people behind the numbers, the statistics, the headlines. Each one has a story to tell, a story of resilience, of struggle, of survival. They are not abstract concepts or distant figures. They are human beings dealing with unimaginable hardship. But in the midst of this crisis, there is also hope. Kofi, Amina and Baba, they are not just victims, they are survivors. They embody the indomitable spirit of the African people, their resilience in the face of adversity. Their stories are a testament to the power of the human spirit, a reminder that even in the darkest of times, hope can still be found. So let's remember, when we talk about the crisis in Africa, we're not just talking about numbers on a page. We're talking about real people with real stories. Stories of pain, yes, but also stories of hope, of resilience, of survival. These are not just African stories, they are human stories. The crisis is not hopeless. Solutions exist, and with concerted effort, we can end this tragedy. There's an African proverb that says, "The best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago, the second best time is now." This wisdom is the cornerstone of our approach to addressing the food and water crisis in Africa. Sustainable farming practices are key. By harnessing the power of the African sun and soil, we can cultivate crops that are resilient, nutritious, and capable of withstanding the harsh realities of climate change. This is not a mere pipe dream. All across the continent, we are seeing farmers adopting techniques like agroforestry, permaculture, and organic farming, which promote soil health, biodiversity, and water conservation. But agriculture is only one piece of the puzzle. Infrastructure development is another crucial element. We need to create systems that can deliver clean water to every household, and roads that can transport crops from rural farms to urban markets. This is a monumental task, but one that is achievable with the right investment, planning, and commitment. Climate change mitigation is also a critical part of the solution. As the African continent bears the brunt of the global climate crisis, we need to take proactive steps to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and adapt to changing weather patterns. This can be achieved through a combination of renewable energy adoption, reforestation efforts, and climate-smart agriculture. Education, too, plays a vital role. By empowering communities with knowledge and skills, we can enable them to take charge of their own destinies. This means providing training on sustainable farming, water management, and environmental conservation. There's no sugarcoating it. The path ahead is steep and fraught with challenges. But remember, every journey begins with a single step. We have the tools, the knowledge, and the passion to make a difference. This is not a mission for a select few. It is a collective endeavor, requiring the commitment of every global citizen. Let's remember, the power of one, the strength of many can turn the tide. The power to change the future of Africa is in our hands. It's not about charity, it's about justice. It's about changing the systems that perpetuate poverty and hunger. Let that sink in for a moment. Yes, we're talking about a systemic shift, a fundamental change that can only be achieved through collective action. And you, dear viewer, play a crucial role in this transformation. You might be wondering, how can I, as an individual, make a difference? Well, there are numerous ways, and every little effort counts. Let's start with the most direct one, donating. Donations can be monetary, but they can also be in the form of goods or services. If you have a skill that can be put to good use, offer it. If you have resources that can help, share them. However, it's not just about giving, it's about being informed and spreading awareness. Stay updated about the situation in Africa and the solutions being implemented. Share this knowledge with your friends, family, and social networks. The more people are aware of the crisis, the more pressure there is on governments and organizations to act. Advocacy is another powerful tool. Reach out to your elected representatives, urging them to prioritize policies that alleviate hunger and provide clean water in Africa. Write to them, call them, make your voice heard. Remember, they are there to serve you, and your concerns are their concerns. Join or organize local events to raise funds and awareness. Participate in charity runs, garage sales, bake-offs, anything that gets people talking and contributing towards the cause. You'd be surprised how much of an impact a small community can create. And finally, support organizations, both local and international, that are working tirelessly to bring about change in Africa. They need your backing to continue their crucial work. Remember, it's not just about charity, it's about justice. It's about changing the systems that perpetuate poverty and hunger, And that change begins with you. So roll up your sleeves, step up and take action. You have the power to make a difference. Act now for a hunger-free, thirst-free Africa.